Hello, welcome to another yarn spinning video. I have some really fun art Batt that I grabbed while at FeistyFenn that I'm excited about. Honestly, haven't worked up anything that has this much variety in it before. This stuff is dense, with a whole 8 different things in it. This Batt came from FeistyFenn fibers, and yeah, it's a bit expensive compared to a lot of other Batts or rovings I've gotten, but with what's in it, it's 100% worth it. You can see everything circled that's in this mix, and pause if you need longer to read everything. But I'll explain what each thing is as I start spinning. The different silks and sparkly fibers really add a lot to the blend, and it definitely shows through in finished products, so you'll want to stick around and see it. It's something that shows up way better in person, but I think I did pretty good capturing it for the video. It has this base of gray that's really neat too. I'm going to just start off by pulling this apart into smaller strips to make it more manageable. You can really see just how sticky this wool is, and it'll show up more while spinning it up. There are some sections that have way more lanolin than others, like the gray wool doesn't have a lot of lanolin in it, it's really smooth, but the pink shades, especially the darker one, have a lot of lanolin. The pink's actively stuck to my fingers and to everything else. Something that adds to how difficult this Batt is to work with is the different fiber lengths. There are some that are a solid foot long, especially the bright orange, but there are some bits that were maybe an inch long at most, and a few chunks of second cut that honestly added some cool texture to it when I didn't pull it out. I ended up rearranging the way the wool was laid out after ripping it apart just to try to even out the spacing of the different colors a bit. But finally, it is time for spinning. While I do that, I'm going to go over everything that's in this yarn and explain what it is, because honestly, I don't even fully understand what all of these fibers are, so I'll be learning with you. First off, bamboo. It's actually a really cool plant, super eco-friendly because of how quickly it grows, low water needs, being able to absorb a lot of CO2, and the fact that it's antibacterial, so it's naturally pest resistant. In an industrial setting, there's 2 different methods for spinning up bamboo yarn. Wet spinning, which is prepped by dissolving the bamboo fibers in a chemical solution, extruding that solution into a solidifying bath. Then they stretch, wash, and dry those to make thread. Then there's dry spinning, which looks like it uses the same dissolved solution, but it's extruded through a chamber of heated air. Way different than the hand spinning at home. Bamboo is also really strong, so it's less likely to break when working with it, and super flexible. I can imagine how silky and flowy a garment knitted out of bamboo yarn would be. Definitely makes me want to get some fiber and try spinning it by itself. Next is banana silk. This is made from the pseudostem or layered stalks of banana trees, so no fruit in this yarn. This is also something that's eco-friendly. It uses less water than something like cotton. It doesn't really need pesticides and uses agricultural detritus, which I think means that they use any waste plant as fertilizer material if I did my research right. And it also helps bring a source of income to marginalized communities in places like India and the Philippines. The banana silk specifically is made by taking the innermost layer of the stalk, while the fibers get coarser as you go out through the layers. The outermost layer is typically used for making things like rope and rugs because of how coarse it is. It's also shiny and used as a silk alternative. Pretty cool plant in my opinion. Now for the milk fiber. Milk fiber is made by mixing an acid with milk to extract casein, which is a protein in the milk. That is then evaporated dry, turned into a thick syrup, and that syrup is extruded and hardened to turn into fiber. This fiber is biodegradable, it has good moisture absorption, and is resistant to heat. But it seems like it is prone to wrinkling and needs special care when washing it. And of course, it's made from milk, so if you're vegan or wanting to be eco-conscious, just keep that in mind. It is interesting, though, how an organic liquid can be turned into a solid fabric. Okay, sari silk next. Absolutely beautiful fibers. It's extremely silky and smooth, and it's pretty durable too. This fiber is actually made by recycling saris back into raw fiber, or by taking the byproducts when producing saris and turning that into woven. This is why a lot of this fiber sold is so many different colors, and usually a mixture of color rather than just one solid one. It's great for sustainability since it's a recycled material. Staple length is pretty short, so it can be harder to work with for beginner spinners. Before I continue with the other fibers, I actually have the yarn all spun up here. Honestly, it turned out better than I expected with how much variety is in it. You can see the different textures and a bit of that sparkle coming through. I'm really happy with how it turned out, but the hardest part is over. Now continuing on as I apply the yarn, Firestar and Angelina Sparkles. I'm pairing these two together because they seem to be pretty much the same thing from what I can tell. They're nylon fibers, extremely sparkly, and like impossible to properly show in video or photo. The main difference I could find is that Angelina Sparkle is iridescent, while Firestar Sparkle is not, but please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Usually it's used to add a bit of flair to other fibers, just mixing in a tiny bit. I've made a few yarns before that have some Firestar in them, and yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Not a lot is needed. The second to last one, Silk Noil. I looked up the pronunciation this time. This is a shorter fiber. It's a byproduct of processing silk while combing the fibers to prep for spinning. It can be spun on its own, but it's typically mixed with other fibers because of how short the staple length is. This stuff is weaker and usually considered less valuable than regular silk, and it's not as shiny, so it can almost look more like cotton. Now, the last item, Merino Fleece, the base of this yarn. I actually want to do a series talking about different sheep breeds in depth while I work with that specific wool, so I'll keep this more generic. The merino in here, I believe, is not as processed as a lot of merino you can find on the market. It still has a lot of crimping and lanolin, so it's really springy and sticky instead of that straight and smooth texture that's usually seen. Merino has a finer micron count than a lot of other sheep breeds, and that's what makes it so soft. It has a longer staple length too, which helps with its strength. Overall, a beautiful fiber. Definitely makes sense why it's so common to see when searching for fiber to buy. Finally, that's everything that's in this Batt I got. Honestly, the yapping took longer than I expected, but that's okay. And as you can see while I was spinning this yarn up, there were a few times I had to break off the loose fiber and reattach it when it got too thin. And I had a lot of times I had to stop and thin out other spots. I cut out quite a lot just to make it more concise. I honestly have enough footage that I could make a longer video. It's just like maybe some lo-fi music with the spinning going on in the video if that sounds interesting. I might do that every now and then, especially since some of these take so long to make. This yarn has been really interesting to work with, and I really want to get some more from this shop. The person selling it at the Fiber Fest was really nice, and they had a ton of beautiful fibers in our yarn that they had spun up. They even had grabbed a little sample bit of wool they were working on and to show me the texture of this bat before I bought it, just to make sure it was something I actually wanted. And perfect timing for my rambles to be done. The yarn is officially done being made. All that's left is to take it off the wheel and wash it. I promise one day I will actually do a wheel tour. I know I keep saying that, but there's still a couple of things I'm adjusting on it, and I want it to be perfect before showing it off completely. Sorry for the shaky camera, but I just love how the yarns I make look before they come off the wheel. You can see just how sparkly it is here, even though a lot of it got hidden under wool. Taking the yarn off the wheel is pretty straightforward. I remove all the bits that would block it or add resistance. Then I just wrap it around my niddy noddy. I try to keep the first end of the yarn near the top. Then once I have enough of the yarn on the niddy noddy, I'll tuck that end under everything so I can hold it more comfortably while getting the yarn wrapped up. You definitely don't need a fancy professional made niddy noddy. I literally just took some half-inch PVC pipes and a couple of T-joints. And it can even be smaller than this. I like the height, but I'll probably cut an inch or two off the ends just so they don't stick out so far, since I don't need for it to be quite so wide. Yes, the cat interruption. This is Freya. She's a little menace. Actually, she rarely ever comes over to my workspace, so I just enjoyed the forced break time. Actually, while she's here, make sure you get some water or food if you haven't had any recently. Do some stretches, and take your meds if you haven't, if you happen to have any. Yeah, she's a huge cuddle bug. She's actually my mom's cat, but she latched onto me and will pester me for attention any chance that she gets. Okay, back to work. Honestly, I find this part a bit boring, so I tried to keep it shorter. So once all of the yarn is on the nitty nutty, I will go in and cut the leader scrap, and it is completely free from the wheel. From here, I'll grab that first end I tucked away and tie it onto the second end. Then I separate the yarn into three sections and I weave the longer end through those sections to help keep it all organized. I tie three spots like this using the extra cutoff to secure everything. This is really just to help keep the yarn from getting tangled up while I'm washing it and makes it easier to place onto a Swift to cake it up after it's found its new home. I will actually keep whatever extra bits left over and put it into a jar. I have a small piece from each different yarn I've made, minus the duplicates. I don't really have a reason for this. It's nice to look back and see everything I've done. The jar is actually mostly full, so I'll need a bigger one soon. Now the yarn will be free. I pull off one end of the nitty knotty, and it completely relieves the tension that the yarn has been under this whole time. You can see it immediately bunch up and twist at the bottom. This is one of the main reasons for washing it. Besides making sure there's no excess oils or any sort of residue on the yarn, it sets the fibers so that they don't untwist themselves. I snap the skein a couple of times just to make sure everything's even, then I twist it up. I turn it into a hank before I wash it because honestly, sometimes the yarn will sit for a while before I get around to doing it, and I don't want to risk it coming apart before then. I doubt it would, but better safe than sorry. And you get a nice little preview before the final shots. Off to washing. It's the same as with my other yarns. 2 bowls of water, one hot with wool wash in it, the other just clean ice water. I make sure to be extra thorough with this yarn because of how much lanolin there is in it. Really got in there and massaged it to try to get the excess out. But yeah, I just go back and forth between the 2 bowls a couple times. The temperature difference helps shock the fibers and really sets them in place so they don't unravel. Oh, and an extra reason for washing the yarn, it pulls extra dye out. The water in the hot bowl is already tinged pink from the dyes used in wool. I know I would personally hate using a yarn that might stain my hands, even if it's not that much. I have had a couple that will have a lot of dye come out. There was actually some black wool I got before that I had to wash it before I even used it because there was so much dye that it smelled strongly of the dye. The water even turned completely black with the first washing. So yeah, there's a few different reasons for washing the yarn. But the yarn is officially done now. I just hang it up outside to dry. Usually takes about half a day thanks to how hot Texas is, even this early in the year. I hope you enjoyed. This was really fun to work with, especially with its challenges. I learned a lot working with it. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with a friend that might want to learn a bit about different fibers. I hope to see you again.